It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Renee Ritchie's here, Andy Ihnatko, Lori Gill. We'll talk about the iPhone 12. We're learning more, including an iFixit teardown. It's surprisingly repairable. 1 billion iPhone users, that's a magic mark. And are AirTags coming in November? That's what the rumor mill says. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. MacBreak Weekly comes to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. Now, you're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 737, recorded Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. Emmy Drenched. This episode of MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Peak Design. Peak Design has just launched their 10th campaign on Kickstarter. Mobile by Peak Design, an ecosystem of cases, mounts, and accessories that make your phone a better tool for everything you do, including the new iPhone 12. I've got mine. To learn more, go to peakdesign.com/twit and get yours. And by Cachefly. Give your users the seamless online experience they want. Power your site or app with Cachefly's CDN and be 30% faster than the competition. Learn more at twit.cachefly.com. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. The week after iPhone announcement, or two, there's usually not much news from Apple, but we're going to do something. We might be talking about The Mandalorian, but we will do something. Lori Gill is here. She is a senior managing editor at imore.com. Hello, Lori.
I like
Gill.
that you've given me a promotion. I'm now the senior managing editor.
I don't know. You're executive vice president.
You know what? I'm going to tell my boss that, and he's just going to have to give me the promotion now.
There may not even be such a position. I don't know.
There isn't.
Okay. I'm making it up as I go along. That's really kind of 90% of what we do here at Twit. Also with us from WGBH in Boston, Mr. Andy Ihnatko. A brief visit from Andy Ihnatko. Hello, Andrew.
I'm making a subliminal appearance. It's twice as effective and 1/12 as annoying.
Terrifying. It's in your brain now, folks. You can't get rid of it. Also from all the way up in Montreal, where the snow is only 3 feet high, Mr. Renee Ritchie of youtube.com.
You laugh, Laporte, but it was 24 degrees 2 days ago, and it's 0 degrees today, and I'm clinging to hot beverages for... It's just going up and down. It's like a yo-yo. I don't know.
Wait a minute.
Can't make any sense of it anymore.
Yeah. So... those were both in Celsius. So
it went from like 80 to 30,
give me a moment,
and then something like 80 to 30, and then I'm sure it's going to go back again.
Yeah. Anyway, great to have all three of you in the saddle. Let me just ask one by one. Do you buy iPhones, Renee, or you just kind of live on review units?
Most years I buy one of each just because I always want, you have to give back the review units, and I always want to have my own handy for testing and to go back and do things like photo comparisons year over year. I've bought at least one of every iPhone every year, but there's four this year.
That's a lot of money.
So far I've bought an iPhone 12. I did not buy the Pro because I know I'm buying the Max and probably the Mini. So I might get 3 out of the 4, or I might just end up buying the 4 in a drunken stupor one night. I'm not sure.
we spent the day on iOS Today this morning talking about Micah's iPhone 12 Pro. But even Micah says, yeah, I'm going to turn it in and get the Max. And I'm holding out for the Max. Are you going to hold out for the Max, Lori? What are you doing?
The Mini, duh. Come on. Are you listening to me?
I'm glad you'll be the only person I know who has that little tiny phone.
Oh, God, I can't wait. I am so excited about the Mini. I'm not as overwhelmed by the differences between the cameras. I've got the 12 and the 12 Pro review units, and I really don't see a major difference between these. And the thing that you get with the Pro Max, it's big and it's cool, but it's not what everybody needs. So it's kind of one of those things where I think that the 12 Pro Max is a little bit of a FOMO situation for a lot of people that they're just not going to need that level of photography for, photos that they're putting on Instagram or Twitter or something like that, So they just want it because it's the best. But I think that for the most part, the 12 is really what anybody needs.
The 12 plain, not even the Pro.
Plain, the 12 standard.
Yeah. And you'll get all of that.
And for me, the 12 mini.
In the mini, you're going to get everything that's in the 12, just smaller.
Yeah, exactly.
Smaller. Andy, do you think you'll buy one this year, or are you going to stick with your Pixel 2?
I don't. Well, as my daily driver, I do have a brand new shining $350 Pixel 4a.
Very nice. Very nice.
But I have been like now is around the time where I start to calculate out like my budget, like in broader terms, my budget for the next year, and I'm already thinking that the most recent iPhone that you actually own is the iPhone 8. It would not be out of line for you to buy a new iPhone, so that the one in your library, and the fact that it happens to be a really nice camera is completely irrelevant. It's completely
the
irrelevant.
archival copy.
But yeah, I don't have my review unit yet because I've basically made it clear that, hey, I'm going to take my time with this. So whenever review units start to come back, let it back again. So I'll probably have a chance to play with it for at least 3 or 4 months. Like Renee said, you have to send them back. Apple is usually nice enough that if I ask for an extension, they'll give it to me so that I can have like several months with it at least, in inventory for continued testing and continued software checking out. But yeah, there's no replacement for having one that you absolutely own, that you don't have to worry about, well, if I want to put my SIM in this and actually use it as a phone for a month, but gee, should I really be doing that if it's not actually my phone? And yeah, this one is
I do that every time.
Tempting. Yeah, well, for testing, everyone has to navigate it a different way. I feel as though while I'm doing the big review or the first big, hey, here's how I feel about it, then yes, absolutely. But there comes a point for all the hardware that I borrow that when it becomes something that is actually part of like my daily carry, that this is being used for actual productive stuff, it's like, okay, at this point you need to actually buy this, because you can't have companies giving you free hardware, even if they were willing to give you free hardware, which generally they are not.
Yeah.
But it's changed. So like there's hashtag gift from Google all over Twitter now, which never used to be the case 2 or 3 years ago. Just the whole thing is.
What is hashtag gift from Google? That means they gave you a phone?
They give phones to influencers now, which is different, I think, than the reviews, because the reviews are on a different timeline than the gift from Google stuff.
There was a day when I was on good terms with Apple where they would give me stuff. I remember one Christmas, I got a gift-wrapped box from Apple many years ago with iPods in it, like every model of iPod that they were currently selling, and it kind of shocked me.
I mean,
Google gave you Apple products?
No, not from. Did I say from Google? No, Apple.
Oh, so it was from Apple. Okay. No, that makes
back
more
when
sense.
Apple liked me. I haven't gotten anything.
I don't think they do that anymore. Like,
no, I don't
maybe
think
Al
so.
Gore gets that box. But
there was a very nice lady, Carrie Walker, who was responsible for their loan program, and often when they loaned you a Mac, they would just loan it to you without end date. But those times are all changed. And frankly, I prefer not to do that. These days, I have the resources to buy. And
that reminds me, Andy, in terms of your budgeting, that's actually something you have to consider this year too, is whether or not you're going to have to buy that Silicon Mac when it comes out.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that.
Yeah. That's easier, because that is like no doubt about it. Like the thing that I'm actually doing podcasting from, the thing I'm actually doing my writing on, that would be pretty darn obnoxious to say, oh, like, thanks Apple I'm giving you a fair and unbiased review of this $2,000 computer, which I now rely on daily to get all my daily work done. No, that won't do.
There is a standard among YouTube, especially YouTube influencers, and I don't mean this in any way to disparage you.
I can take it, Leo.
Renee Ritchie.
I can take it.
But there is a lower standard of integrity these days. It's
not lower. It's so new to them. Like a lot of people who got into like the YouTube thing, they didn't come from the same background. Because serious journalists didn't go on YouTube very rarely, and there was a huge vacuum in the market, and they just loved tech. But then you see like, oh, you have to pay taxes on products that were given to you that you didn't return. There's like all these things that people find out that it's not even part of the consciousness at first.
I think, though, there's also a certain disregard of how it might influence your review. And I just think anybody
they have the FTC now, Leo.
the FTC sort of tries to, but I don't know how. consistently.
It really depends. I mean, if you the whole point is that you develop a reputation, and people will figure it out whether you're a bozo or not. I did see. I was looking for reviews of a certain thing that I was interested in buying, and one quote influencer said, "And hey, this is from my friends at blah blah tech who sent me what their hot new blah 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 for these that I can keep." And he actually, and I'm not joking, he wound up licking the side of it to say, "Oh, how amazing this thing was." And that person is a bozo. There are other people though that are
it's the more subtle bozos I worry about. That guy's obvious. But there's plenty of influencers out there who are on the make, and do not disclose.
Paid reviews makes it hard. Like when someone says this review was sponsored by the company of the product you're reviewing.
Well, that's a giveaway.
Yeah, to me, that's where it starts
and they're
to
supposed to do that.
Problematic.
They're supposed to reveal it, but it's not always obvious. And I don't think the FTC has a particularly strong enforcement.
Or you don't take a promotion, like you do the review on a video that's not promoted by the company that's made the product, and then you have a different company sponsor the review.
My only advice, kids, is to consider the source and do the best you can finding multiple. If you get multiple reviews and multiple reviewers agree on something, just don't base it on one or two. That's a mistake. Neil Seibart above Avalon says that Oprah finally is right.
If you wait by the river long enough, Oprah will finally be right.
Last year at the Apple TV Plus announcement, Oprah came on stage and said, 1 billion phones. What did he say? 1 billion pockets?
A billion phones in your pockets, y'all.
That wasn't actually yet true, but Neil says now 1 billion people have iPhones. Apple doesn't say, but this is
based on his model.
And he's pretty good, I think. He did a lot of calculations. Of course, remember, not every phone sold stays active, so you can't, they've sold many more than 1 billion phones. The point is that there are, he believes, 1 billion phones in actual use right now, which is a stunning number.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we remember how Steve Jobs, I think probably cannily, was saying, if we get 2% of the market next year, we'll be very, very happy. Yeah, it's not just the number that they've sold, it's the number of customers that they've kept and the number of new customers that they're getting.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
absolute 100% props to Apple.
Yeah. We don't want to give short shrift to the other product Apple shipped a couple of weeks ago, a new iPad Air. Any of you have the new iPad Air?
Yep.
Nope.
Lori? Yep.
Sorry, it's inside the Magic Keyboard because it also fits with the Magic Keyboard.
So this is kind of a little bit like a Pro, but not quite. It's got the square sides. It's got the USB-C port. It's the only iPad with Touch ID and the power button because there's no more home button.
This is actually very.
Does it work?
It's not only does it work, it works really fast, like it would on your phone with Touch ID. The button, I expected it to, always kind of take a second, because if you remember back when Touch ID first came to iPhone, it was a little slow. You kind of held your finger down for about a half a second before it would trigger. And I've been really, really happy with the experience on the iPad Air. You barely lightly rest your finger. It catches it right away, opens up, unlocks right away. Going from iPad Pro to iPad Air, the only thing that's awkward is that I'm now used to my face unlocking the iPad. So it's a little like physical movement that isn't as convenient as it used to be. But most people are not going to go from an iPad Pro to an iPad Air, so that's not even going to be an issue for a lot of people. Is this going to
be the default iPad? Like when people ask me about iPads, I say, hey, look, at $329, the base model is so affordable, there's no reason to buy an Android device. I like my iPad Pro, but it's as expensive as a laptop. This is kind of in the middle. Is this, you think, the one that most people will get, Lori?
What I really think is yes. And because what I really think Apple is going to do is turn the iPad Pro into a really pro machine with those sort of extra bumps and extra sensors and extra features that most people don't need. So the iPad Air, like previously, you either went with what you could afford or you bought an iPad Pro. Nobody bought an iPad Air. It was
now
really
this
just
is kind of the affordable iPad Pro, right? This is kind of in that space.
Exactly. This is going to be the one that everybody's going to want. I can't even tell the difference day to day between this and my 2018 iPad Pro. I can't tell at all. Like, I could pick them both up. I mean, literally, they're in the same case. I could pick them both up and not know the difference between them day to day with regular use.
Do you see any speed difference?
It's definitely
theoretically
the iPad everyone wants.
The Air has the new, a faster version of the
Yes.
A14, right? But do you see, does it feel different?
My
I think the
my
iPads are
headphones
so
just went out
fast.
for some reason.
Uh-oh.
So I
The
can't hear
iPad
you.
Air it's faster for single-threaded operations, so the UI, everything like that, feels just super snappy. The areas where it's different is that the memory bandwidth isn't as big. It's got multiple cores. It's like 2 extra CPU cores, 4 extra GPU cores, and it'll go to 1 terabyte. So, and it's also got 6 gigabytes of RAM. So just keeping apps in memory and the amount of memory those apps can access. But you're talking about real, like, you're using video editing, a ton of photographic editing, petapixel images, that sort of thing is where you'll notice the difference.
Yeah.
Not really consumery stuff.
In The Verge, Dieter Bones says the $599 iPad Air is the best tablet for most people. And in Gadget, Dana Woolman says, with so few differences between the iPad Air and the Pro, I'm forced to reconsider who the Air is for. Interesting.
It's just a little bit low on storage for the $599. Like,
it's only 64 gigs
more than it was. Yeah. And it's 64 gigs, which if you live that streaming life, if you're all about the Netflix and the Spotify and all that kind of stuff, and you keep everything in the cloud, that's fine. I know a lot of people who don't hit 64 gigs, but for me, I still like a lot of local stuff. So I would splurge on the update. And unlike the iPhone, it's not $50 more, it's $100 more for 128. So that, to me, it increases the cost of entry a little bit.
Did Apple, with its pricing, muddy the waters a little bit? Because you're starting to nudge the iPad Pro comparably equipped.
The iPad Pro goes to 12.9, which to me is like, everything else aside, like all the chipset and memory and storage differences aside, you can't get a bigger iPad Air.
Right.
So and I think if at a certain point, like especially if it's your laptop replacement, the 12.9 is just in a category of its own.
I am fond of the 12.9, I must say. Yeah.
It's a tough call. I think you have a point that Apple's kind of blurred the lines between, I think, these two categories of devices, because I still have and still use my 12.9 first generation iPad Pro. There's something about the size of that screen as a handheld screen, multi-touch, whether I'm reading comics, whether I'm trying to multitask, anything of that nature. However, once we're in the category of spending $1,000 and up, what is the best way to solve a certain problem with fill a certain gap in your computing arsenal with $1,000 plus? And once you start opening up your thinking that way, you start to bring in, well, how about a machine that could not just run a special coming attractions version of mobile Photoshop, but can actually run the entire creative suite. Certainly not with the same amount of horsepower that you'll get with the modern Apple Silicon, but still it might be a more practical solution for a lot of people. This is why I do think the iPad Air is a wonderful step forward, because to me it really is in the sweet spot of a value computer and also a valuable computer that takes advantage of being a tablet while not losing sight of having to be a productivity machine as well. I think that when you walk into an Apple store wanting an iPad, that really is the default choice. And if someone says that, if you're talking to the customer and you find out that they actually just want it for occasional use, you want to downgrade them into the $329 entry level iPad, and it's hard to have I think it's a much longer conversation to talk someone up into the iPad Pro at this point.
You can only use the Magic Keyboard though with this new iPad Air and the iPad Pros. That's a pretty big selling point. Did you get the Magic Keyboard, Lori?
Yeah. In fact, you don't need a different Magic Keyboard either. It's the
same
you
as
can
the
use
11.
the exact same one, right? It works with both. So it's the exact same case as the iPad Pro from 2018 on. So any case that you have for your iPad Pro also works with the iPad Air, which, by the way, again, nobody's going to go from an iPad Pro to an iPad Air. So that's not really a discussion to be having, unless for some strange reason you decide that you want to sell your iPad Pro because you don't need it, and you'll use the money that you save to buy your iPad Air.
But you shouldn't be seduced by the A14.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, it's great and it works fast. But for me, just like I said, like I don't really see just the day-to-day use that I have for it. I don't see a difference in performance. I don't see a difference in battery life, in screen. I mean, I know like
there is theoretically a difference.
Screen
yeah.
Yes, exactly. But for like someone like me on day-to-day usage, the way I use it, there isn't a difference. So there literally is, but just for like my personal views, I would say anybody who used to want an iPad Air or an iPad Pro because they didn't think the iPad Air was quite good enough, that's really not the case right now. And I also think that the iPad Pro is going to be a huge upgrade very soon, probably March, not for sure. But I think that Apple's not just going to sit on an iPad Pro that is, with an iPad Air that's almost as good. They're going to bump that up.
It feels to me like they shouldn't have these in stagger step releases. They should do all the iPads at once. Then you can make a logical choice. Now,
mini LED's not ready yet.
Is that the reason?
Yeah. The screens. Yeah, the new iPad Pros are supposed to have the mini LEDs, and they're not in production yet. So I think if they'd had their druthers, if 2020 had been a very different year, I think we would have seen everything released in a very different schedule. But so many of the things just didn't time out right. And I think that's one of the big ones.
I have to wonder if they're doing an A/B comparison too between Face ID and Touch ID to see, because they didn't put Touch ID on the new iPhones. They only put it on this Air.
But see, that's a problem with their culture. It's like they prepare these devices so far ahead, and that sacrifices a bit of agility in order for them to be able to do the level of integration they do across departments. And they didn't foresee the pandemic, so they'd had this iPhone was ready and going into production last spring already. And the rumor is we're going to be getting in-display fingerprints next year, but they can't rush that a year forward. Where with the iPad Air, it's just, we can save $100 off the bill of goods if we don't put a true depth camera system in there. We have this Touch ID thing, so wouldn't it be great if we just put it in the power button?
Prefer Touch ID. I'd rather see that everywhere, but that's just me, maybe.
The only down point for me, like where I notice it, is that when it's sitting in the Magic Keyboard, like in my hands, it's fine because I registered both of my index fingers. So whether it's here in landscape or here in portrait, it's super easy. But when it's on the Magic Keyboard with Face ID, you press a key on that keyboard and it just opens because it's staring right at you. Where with Touch ID, you've got to stop first. You got to go press. I'm not going to say like an animal. You have to reach up and do like a physical act again, like it's 2018 or whatever. It's
a little bit of a trip up, which is funny with when I switched over to the iPhone SE from an iPhone 11 Pro. So I was going from Face ID to Touch ID. That was seamless. It didn't even matter. It was fine. I wasn't distracted by the extra step having to use my thumb or anything like that. But for the iPad, going from iPad Pro to iPad Air, that is a little, like, just a tiny little stutter of that's right, I got to reach out and do it. Yeah. So it's a little tiny bit of a difference.
Yeah, but one other thing we're introducing into this equation is the Magic Keyboard, which is amazing. It's a quintessential Apple product, and it really does make the iPad Pro and the iPad Air into something that really can compete as a laptop, but it is a $300 or $350 item. So once you bump that up, now even if we're stuck with a consumer who is absolutely not going to buy anything that's not an Apple, they're looking at this potential $1,100 to $1,300, $1,400 charge on their Visa card, and now they're thinking, well, why, if I'm spending this much on something that I'm hoping will behave like a notebook, why am I not going to buy a MacBook instead and spend just a tiny bit more, or buy a MacBook Air, hopefully an improved version of the MacBook Air? So I do think there's a lot of confusion there. I think that Apple would do well to really draw a line between here's stuff that the iPad Pro is capable of that the other iPads are not capable of, and make it more than a vague argument about why you would want to spend $1,200, $1,300 on this combination iPad whatever instead of getting a notebook, because they're not only competing with Windows notebooks, they're also competing with themselves here. And if just to make things easier for the person who's walking into the Apple store with $1,000 to $1,500 to solve a problem of mobile computing, I think that's one thing they haven't done yet.
I think it's also hardware engineering comes into play here, because At a certain point, I think they decided that they're not going to manage the releases. And all I mean by that is when something's ready, they're going to ship it when they can. And they look at the Pro versions as the Halo products where the price points are high enough they can try out new technologies because they can afford it within the cost structure of that product. So it gets Face ID first and it gets 120 hertz first because that's expensive. But people who self-identify as pros will pay it. And then they push those technologies down as fast as they can. So as soon as the R&D is paid off and the assemblies are paid off, we get that technology pushed down into like the regular iPhone 12 or the new iPad Air. And if the next wave of new technologies, things like mini LED, isn't quite ready yet, they don't feel like they should hold the iPad Air back. And that goes into that Phil Schiller thing where all of these products have to fight for survival. And it's the job of the people who make the lower rung, quote unquote, lower rung products to be as good as possible to push up against those higher rung products. Those higher rung products have to fight for their very lives and spot in the lineup. And it does create a lot of confusion, especially when the schedules don't line up. But I also think it's good in that I don't think anybody should ever have to wait for a better version of anything if it's available.
I do think that's a cleaner strategy with notebooks because there's a real definition of what a pro would need, where we're talking about software developers who can count in minutes how long it takes for them to build their next project, videographers and photographers who can count in seconds how long it takes to apply a certain filter, and that's how they define the difference between a Pro and a MacBook Air. However, it's hard to say it's hard to define the pro user of an iPad beyond people who are using it as real intensive content creators. People are using it as an art tablet, and the few people, I think very few people, that are using it to collect both generate content, edit content, and distribute content on the exact same device. I know that those people are out there, but it really isn't as distinct a category. So this is why I keep coming back to the idea that I wish that Apple would do their messaging a little bit better, or even streamline the product line a little bit better, just to make sure they're getting every dollar of value out of the customer, and the customer's getting every dollar of value out of the hardware.
That was one of the things Steve Jobs did when he came back from Next. Yeah. Is cut out all of the extra. There was just too many SKUs, and it made it for a long time, it was a very clear linear progression with Apple products on the price scale.
The 2x2 grid.
Yeah. Now it's a little more complicated. It's going to get even more complicated. Somebody in the chat room is pointing out when the new Apple Silicon Macs come out, if they can run iOS apps equally as well, that suddenly you're going to be choosing between an iPad Pro and a MacBook, maybe. That's going to be an interesting conundrum. Now we really have blurred the lines.
The thing is, though, that back when Apple was only offering, two options or one option even, everyone complained that Apple there weren't enough options, and they were angry that, well, I want this and I want that, and why didn't Apple give me this thing? And now Apple is making multiple versions of the same device, and now people are complaining that there's too many options.
Too many options. Yeah, it's confusing.
Like where's the who's going to get happy in this situation?
No one. Let's take a break. We got a lot more to talk about, but before we go on with Lori and Renee and Andy, I want to tell you about your new iPhone case, because I know when you see this, you're going to want it. I'm a big Peak Design fanatic. Peak Design is a really interesting company. They started back in 2011 with their first Kickstarter, and they have built their product line via Kickstarters. This is their 10th campaign on Kickstarter, the Mobile by Peak Design campaign. And I have participated in a great many of them. I think I first became aware of Peak Design when our friend Trey Ratcliffe said, I've helped them design the perfect photography bag. And I bought that immediately. I bought I think 3 Peak Design bags. And then their camera straps. Their last Kickstarter was the incredible travel tripod, which I love. But now they're getting into phone cases, and it's really interesting. Actually, if I go to Kickstarter, I can show you, because I did, in fact, plunk down for Mobile by Peak Design. They've done pretty well so far. They've raised $1.1 million out of their $100,000 goal. That's always the case with Peak Design. And, of course, eventually you'll be able to buy it on Peak Design's site. But if you want to get in on this system, and by the way, this is going to work with a variety of phones, including your iPhone 12, and it works with the MagSafe connectors, which makes it even more desirable. Peak Design, they have the hearts of photographers, the hearts of users, and they have created this amazing ecosystem of cases, mounts, and accessories that make your phone a better tool for everything you do, from photo and video creation to bicycle and motorcycle riding to working in the home or office. In their words, you don't need more screen time, you need better screen time. It even works with the new 12 MagSafe. Now, there's two different ways. They have a proprietary magnetic mechanical locking system on the back of the cases they call SlimLink. SlimLink uses, and you can see it if you look at the pictures, a precision machined piece of zirconia ceramic, very hard, and an array of magnets that provide an intuitive connection. See, there it is, and it just snaps in. But when you need, like on a motorcycle or a bicycle, a better, more secure connection, they have hard locking security as well. It has wireless charging compatibility. In fact, they have a wireless charger. And because it's magnetic, it just snaps into place. It all starts with the new everyday phone case, the perfect balance of slimness and protection. And when paired with your mobile device, it opens up this ecosystem of mounts and accessories, a rugged and handsome wallet with built-in kickstand, a machined aluminum tripod with a buttery smooth ball head. I'm going to be doing so much photography and video with the iPhone. I'm really excited about this. There's a charging and non-charging mounts for the dash of your car. Look at that. And it just snaps in. You don't have to fuss around with it. And it's secure immediately. They have hard locking mounts for total security when you're biking or motorcycle riding. They have a charging stand for your desk or your bedside table. There's low-profile wall mounts. I'm getting a couple of those. I have one in the kitchen so when I get in the kitchen and I'm starting to cook, I can just put my iPod right there, and it's there on the wall. And a variety of adapters that work with both GoPro and the Arca style systems. Every camera I get an Arca style mount for it, so it goes quickly onto my Peak tripod. I'm really thrilled that there'll be Arca support for this as well. And of course, you can count on Peak Design's family of accessories working seamlessly with all iPhone 12 models, not just the iPhone 12 though. So it is the world's most crowdfunded active company. Out of San Francisco, Peak Design. They're really great people who love their customers and use their customers' feedback to design amazing products people really want. To learn more about the mobile by Peak Design campaign, and mine's coming in May, so I'll be showing it off then, and all the other amazing products they have, go to peakdesign.com/twit. Peak, P-E-A-K, design.com/twit. There's really great people who deserve our support. They're doing great, I must say, but I'm glad to be part of this. Peakdesign.com/twit. Thank you, Peak Design, for all your great products over the years. Lisa and I, I joke because when you get a new camera, it comes with the Steal Me strap, the strap that says the camera brand and tells people, exactly how much that camera costs in effect. And I never leave those on my cameras, and immediately put on a Peak Design. The slide belt they have is so great. You can wear it around your neck, around your shoulder, over as a sling. It has the quick swoop up and take picture feature. I just think it's the best thing ever. Big fan of Peak from very, very.
When you said that,
beginning.
I just pictured you going, Lovey, take this Hasselblad strap and pass me the Nikon. No one's stealing those anymore. I'll put one of those on. We'll be perfectly safe.
I have anything that says Polaroid on it.
Yeah, that would be better. I have Canon 5D. I have Sony A7, Sony A9. It's crazy to wear that strap in public.
Yes.
It's just to say, steal me. It's the same reason I tape over any Leica red dots on any camera bodies. You don't want to announce the value of the camera. So let's see. We talked about we didn't talk about the iPhone. There's a teardown now on iFixit of the iPhone 12 and the 12 Pro. It's kind of interesting because apparently there's a lot of interchangeability in parts. The displays are interchangeable. Of course, they vary in spec, but they're the same size. They can be swapped in and out. Looks like the battery is the same. There's a lot of similarity in parts, but you'd expect that, right? Same 2,815 milliamp hour battery. they're interchangeable.
It was the nerds who were all super interested in seeing that it was not a Qualcomm millimeter wave antenna. That was just it was adorable watching.
It wasn't Qualcomm. What was it?
No, it's a Chinese manufacturer, but I believe they worked with Apple. Apple's been doing antennas famously since the iPhone 4.
It is a Qualcomm chip, right?
It's a Qualcomm X55 modem, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that's adorable to me, and we talked about this a bit last week, is that any problem with 5G now, anything that Android users have been living through for a year, things like no 5G on dual SIM, is suddenly like, why is the iPhone not doing 5G on dual SIM? Like, it's X55 modem. Everything that applies to an X55 modem now applies to an iPhone.
How long before Apple Silicon replaces all Qualcomm and Intel parts?
3 years, 4 years?
It's going to be that long. Okay.
Again, it's a non-subtle problem. Getting it, it's like designing a self-driving car. Getting it to work most of the time is very, very easy. Getting to work all the time is damn near impossible.
Right. And Qualcomm has a lot of experience in that. Not to mention all the patents. So you're going to be paying them one way or the other anyway.
Well, they have a license like ARM, and it took them from the A4, which was a Cortex license design, to really the A6 and A7. The A6 was more of a custom design. The A7 was their first, I think, full-on custom 64-bit CPU. So it was a 3-year runway with ARM, and I'd expect it to be the same thing with modems.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like the teardowns. And the good news is, in these teardowns, they didn't have a lot of glued-in stuff to pry out. It looked like you could use a screwdriver.
That was the thing that I found most interesting. I think they give it a 6 out of 10 overall for repairability. And I almost all the time, any Apple product gets like the worst score.
0.
Yeah. So I couldn't believe Apple made these things more repairable.
A little harder to take apart the charging puck, but I would expect that, right? There's the coil.
There's all that glue.
I was thinking the exact same thing, that what kind of engineering changes were made in which that right before they're about to finalize things, they realize, oh crap, that means this is going to be much easier to take apart. Do we have to make this engineering change if it'll make it easier to take apart? It also actually made me think that is repairability something that they factor in for their own uses, so that we need to make sure that every store has the ability to do these 4 very, very simple swaps, these 4 very, very simple in-house repairs. We have to design it so that there's a very, very close to 100% chance that it'll be a successful repair, even if it was perhaps it being done while you wait. And that's another part of that's another story that we will never, ever get to the bottom of. But I'm sure it's part of the stew that they're cooking up every time that they make an engineering change to this machine.
They
Someone will
say
be deposed eventually, Andy.
The iFixit guys, I'm surprised they only gave it a 6, but they say does display and battery replacements remain a priority in the new iPhone design? Most other important components are modular and easy to access or replace. They say liberal use of screws is preferable to glue, but you'll have to keep them all organized and bring out your special drivers, pentalobe, tri-point, and standoff, in addition to the standard Phillips. Of course, in some ways, that's just a come on to say, oh, and buy our magnetic mat that lets you organize the screws in our special multi-tip screwdriver kit, both of which I have, I might add. Increased waterproofing measures complicate some repairs. You'd expect that, but make difficult water damage repairs less likely. And the only real negative, the glass on the front and the back doubles the likelihood of drop damage. Come on, man, don't drop it. And if the glass,
only we could wirelessly charge through metal.
If the glass breaks, you'll be removing every component and replacing the entire chassis. But that's been the case for at least a few iPhone models. That back glass is integral to the whole chassis.
And I saw Lou try to bend it. That was hilarious to me. Like, I didn't know what to make of that video because Unbox Therapy hasn't bent an iPhone since he infamously bent an iPhone. And he put up that video yesterday and I was watching it, and he put on these gloves, real high production value. And then it looked like he almost tore out of his skeleton, Simpsons style, trying to bend them. And he's like, nope, not even an inch. Can't even bend. They were like solid, tiny blocks. Could not bend.
Is he wearing those gloves so that, I don't know what?
He doesn't get glass damage, he said.
Yeah,
well, he should wear safety
That's
glasses. That's a lot more. Oh,
yeah,
crap.
no,
So,
I remember watching a friend of mine had a sample of one of the rear glass panels on an earlier iPhone, and bending it just as I'm shouting, don't do it, it shattered a million pieces.
Hey.
And some of it got in his face.
Yeah, wear glasses.
I'm always very scared when I see these people trying to make these funny or illustrative videos. It's like it's a very easy to buy a face shield, and it's a lot harder to buy a new eyeball,
especially in 2020.
Well, and if these aren't bendable, you could probably thank Lou for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
he was ancillary to it. They may have been strengthening it for 3D Touch 6 months before he bent his first iPhone.
Okay, so it does not bend. Thank you very much.
Also, it's a square frame, so from an engineering standpoint, it's probably going to be a lot stronger than a curved frame.
Yeah, that's a good point. However, the glass will break. I love Engadget bought a bunch of them and dropped them.
This is always such a fun thing to watch happen.
That's not Time Warner money anymore. Where's that money coming from?
Yeah, no kidding. CNET did the same. But I have to say, when I looked at the Engadget picture of, what was it, 4, 6 iPhone, it made my butt hurt. It was like,
Yeah, these are becoming less and less useful as time goes by. All they're proving is that breakable things are in fact breakable.
Yeah.
Until they decide to come up with a standardized rig, and these things exist so they can have some sort of demonstrability that here is how long this device lasted in this machine before the case broke versus how long a competing product or last year's product, the product before. If you're just going to simply keep dropping it until you and then like look at the video to see how it fell and how it broke, it's not always just a case of you dropped it exactly the wrong way. It's also a case for people in the field that you dropped it and you thought you got away with it, but actually there were micro fractures in it that made it more vulnerable to a subsequent drop. So all we really need to talk about is does it seem to be durable enough for daily carry and scratch proofness? And more importantly, what happens when you inevitably do, or excuse me, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but when your back panel or your front panel breaks, are you going to be buying a brand new phone, or are you going to be out, the cost of a couple of large pizzas?
I should actually correct myself. It doesn't look like it was Engadget spent the money. It was Allstate. And as an insurance company, they can afford to buy a dozen iPhones and drop them.
Yeah. Andy and I every year we drop them from low Earth orbit to see which ones burn faster as the
this video is just painful. So the real issue is, does this ceramic glass look? There's even have a special drop thinger. Yeah. And of course you're going to scuff those stainless steel or aluminum those poor edges.
You're also, by the way, you're also going to scuff or scratch the screen. This is not 4 times better protection against scuffs and scratches for those people on the internets and Twitters who say, "Man, I still scratched my screen. What's wrong with this ceramic shield?" It's drop protection. It's cracks. Not scratches.
Okay. Allstate did say it's the most durable iPhone they've ever tested, and that the ceramic shield does do something. But just remember, it's not indestructible.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I'm more impressed with case manufacturers who are able to show off how durable their cases are when you drop an iPhone from 60 or 80 feet. They always do that at CES. There'll be some kind of drop testing, and they'll drop these huge, heavy metal weights on these phones on their screen faces, and it's so amazing to like, wow, that case actually did a really good job protecting that phone. That was impressive.
We have back in the old studio when we could get up on the roof. We did drop some cases in some iPhones in, I think they were Gorilla. I can't remember which ones we used. But we used some strong cases, and we did drop them off the roof. And I think they all survived.
Every video is either iPhone versus man, iPhone versus nature, or iPhone versus itself, Leo. That's just the three.
Yeah.
And I have to say that this phones have been very, very good about drop resistance for a long, long time. I'm right now. I'm thinking back to one of my standard test photos is always like at the Boston Public Library with those marble floors. And I remember it must be 10 years ago, like one of the second or third generation Android phones, dropping it right from eye height on its corner onto this marble floor, and it dented the corner a little bit, but the phone was perfectly fine. So it's not as though these companies aren't thinking about these things. Of course, this wasn't the days of plastic cases, so they're all going around the world in football helmets. So
iPhone, Apple does say that the Lidar on these new phones and on the new Pros and on the iPad Pro can be used to measure people's height even when they're sitting down.
One of my coworkers measured his kid, and
did it work?
It seemed to work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're going to do augmented reality where you just define the corner of the wall where you're going to make the virtual like marks, and every time you upgrade to an iPhone 14, iPhone
take a
15,
picture.
it will add another mark to that wall anytime you aim the camera at that corner.
I also
very
think
sad music until it's gone.
This kind of implies that it might be used by police and other law enforcement to measure.
It's nowhere
suspects.
nearly accurate enough.
Oh, really? Oh, good. But nowadays they're asking eyewitnesses, well, how tall was the suspect? And now you can say, well, according to my Apple Lidar, the measurements were exactly 5.372 inches.
Oh, it's that type of person who wrote down the license plate of every car on the street every night. He's now taking Lidar checks of everyone who walks their dog.
Yeah.
I know your height. I can guess your height.
And I wouldn't worry. The police, as they keep saying, they're very, very good at discovering people who match the general description.
Yes.
So they're good. They're really their eyeballing technique is really on point. Don't worry about it.
And I love this article.
Bipedal, arrest them.
In India today, the iPhone 12 Pro is so expensive in India, you can fly to Dubai to buy it, come back, and still save money. Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Indian tariffs.
Wow.
But I believe they're going to be manufacturing more things there, so that should radically change.
So that you think that's tariffs that are doing that, not Apple's exchange? No,
India wants everything sold in India to be manufactured in India where possible. So which is a reasonable for a country with that kind of capability. That's a reasonable play for them to make.
Canada tried; they just said no. We said fine. Okay.
Sorry.
We please still have them. Sorry.
We have softwood. Anybody want some softwood? iPhone 12 Pro costs 119,900 rupees. So there. I just thought you ought to know that.
I'm not buying one.
Yeah.
Not buying one there. Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about next month because there's going to be an Apple event. We think now obviously it's not going to be election day, so it's not going to be the 3rd. I would expect it to be the 10th, but John Prosser says it's going to be the 17th. And that's
you'd have to send out invitations on the 3rd if it's going to be the 10th, Leo, and no one wants that in their inbox on election day.
So just stay well away from that. It's not going to be election day this year.
It's liquor that day.
It's going to be election week this year, or maybe even election month. So just stay away from that. And the following
week is Thanksgiving, and Apple Incorporated usually takes the week off for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So I don't think
the
people
17th
would be very fussed about doing an
is
event.
the only possible choice. And will I be able to get my Silicon Mac?
At some point.
Almost.
I'm sure they'll announce it.
Definitely.
Almost.
What will that be?
According to Stephen Warwick, writing in your august publication, there will be a Apple Silicon iMac in the first half of 2021. This is from China Times. There was some question whether they might launch an iMac this year. So maybe this would lend credence to the idea that it'll be a laptop.
Mm-hmm. I look forward to a new iMac with Apple Silicon. My wonderful, hardy iMac that I've had for many, 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 many years is definitely starting to show its age at this point. And I am just teetering on the edge of, oh no, I'm going to have to replace this before the Apple Silicon iMac comes out. If this doesn't happen,
it knows its replacement is coming, Lori. You watch the Apple event on the machine that you're going to replace.
Yep.
I know.
That is so savage.
I know.
think of it more nicely. Think of it as like the Bluesmobile that's trying to get you to the assessor's office in Dealey Plaza. It's not going to fall apart until its job is done. So just hang with it; it'll jump.
My iMac Pro, which is fine and will be, and I don't imagine even replacing that for Apple Silicon next year, but it is definitely dying for Big Sur because I've had it 3 years.
How long do we have to wait for Big Sur?
Yeah, that's the question because I want to do a clean install. I'm prepared. I moved everything on, my home folders on an external drive. I've done all the checks. In fact, I did a whole series on Hands-on Macintosh, a 5-part series on the road to Big Sur because we're going to be ready when it comes out. But when
you want them to take their time because like Catalina was painful.
Yeah.
Just there's so many architectural changes they're making to get all this stuff ready. I want them to be sitting there polishing it until even like the engineering product managers are like, okay, you can see your reflection in it. It's time to ship.
Well, the logical time to do it is when the logical time to do it is when the new Macs come out. But that might be like December 31st, right?
They'll probably announce it. Won't they do like it'll be out in 24 hours, just so that every developer has to.
Yeah, just really screw with people
on Thanksgiving. Enjoy your weekend with the family,
Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, so
you can upload Thanksgiving Eve.
It seems likely that so we'll have an event on the 17th, but we're not going to. Clearly, they're not going to order Friday for delivery the day after Thanksgiving. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we'll go into December.
Please don't tempt them, Leo. Please don't tempt them.
Black Friday delivers on Black Friday. The mailman will kill you.
Don't do that to me.
FedEx guy will kill you. So I'm thinking.
They could say order today, available end of week. I mean, they've done that before, but my guess is that they're going to want a little bit of runway with these.
So I'm thinking December, and I'm thinking there's really no urgency. They have to release Big Sur with the new Macs because that's requirement. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking Big Sur might be December as well.
But that's a different version. They could always say, like, this is the release candidate. It's available today. The Apple Silicon version will be available with the new Macs because no one can install that on an existing Mac anyway.
Gallifrey Rebel in the chat room is telling me that Drobo is telling people they're not ready for Big Sur. If you're using a Drobo, do not upgrade. I'm using a Drobo Mini, so I maybe have to. Would I have to wait? Why would they not be ready? Isn't it just a USB drive? What? I mean, I don't understand why Drobo has software, but you don't have to use the software.
Do you use the software?
Yeah.
Well, then there you go.
Yeah. I don't think it's a kernel extension.
5 months.
The big shift on Big Sur from software point of view, we already did the 32 to 64. The big shift is kernel extensions this time, right? That's why I'm getting the warning all the time on Catalina. You're running a legacy kernel extension. It's not going to be compatible, right?
But I don't think they're removing. I think they're making your life increasingly hard, and then at some point in the future,
it's now a separate install, and you have to jump through hoops. It's the Drobo dashboard that's not compatible.
Are you a dashboarder?
When Big Sur launches, this is from Drobo. When Big Sur launches, you'll be prompted to update the dashboard. Follow the prompts to update. Check the dashboard version, blah, blah, blah. The latest dashboard and firmware versions have a backup of your data. Experts agree having 3 copies of your data is optimal. I wouldn't say it's optimal. It's minimum.
Yeah, they're still using a standard RAID that is automatically supported by the OS, are they?
No, but that's in the firmware. They're using their own RAID, but it's not the operating system. Right. It's a USB drive, so I don't think it's going to. I think just disconnect the Drobo, upgrade, and then you'll still be able to see the Drobo, but maybe you won't have all the features the Drobo dashboard offers, which is minimal.
This is just the reason why you don't have automatic updates turned on for any Mac. It's sad to say that I will accept automatic upgrades on my Windows machine, but not on my Mac. But there are considerable advantages to my Mac as well. But yeah, there are times when you definitely want to hold off for about a month. Make sure that any mission critical apps that you use, you go to the websites of those sites to look for any news articles that are saying hold off on updating to X until we solve this problem, or hold off just interminably because there is a critical problem that we don't know how to solve yet, because we've been through that with a couple of different releases over the past couple of years, and there's a lot of people that I know that are updating iOS the day and date of release. They're updating their Apple TV and their Watch day and date of release, but they're still running a version of macOS that's 2 years old because it's still running just fine for them and it hasn't broken anything, and they don't want to go through whatever hoops it's going to take to make sure that they can still get their workflow accomplished.
There's also the fragmentation between the App Store on Mac and not the App Store on Mac too. So there's lots of developers out there that are developing apps for Mac that never really have to interact with Apple in any way. So they're, not necessarily either getting the right information to make sure that they can be compatible with the new software, or maybe they're just developing for a bunch of different things, and Apple Macs, it's kind of in the background. But if they're in the App Store, Apple's constantly like sending out those messages, get your stuff ready, get your stuff ready, get your stuff ready. So I'm sure that kind of separation between the Mac App Store and not the Mac App Store. I don't want to call it side loading, because that's not really what you're doing, but side loading, I guess.
Freedom loading.
Yeah, there you go. Freedom loading. There you go.
According to John Prosser, the base god, the 85.5% accurate base god.
He's getting better.
Yeah, he was down below 80. Yeah. All final performance testing for AirTags B389er will be 100% completed November 6th. After this testing, products typically ship within 30 days. Sure looks like we're getting AirTags for sure at the November event. Putting it all on the line, his 85.5%, all on the line with an easily testable hypothesis. What do you think?
You'd said previously
this makes a lot of sense.
Renee?
I was going to say, because I try to look at it from Apple's point of view, and they're programming these mini events very interestingly. Like the first one was Apple Watch and iPad, and then it was iPhone and HomePod Mini, and now it's going to be Apple Silicon and they don't have to relate, because the iPad and the Apple Watch have nothing to do with each other, but it means that there's a broader audience for that particular event, which is really interesting. And it sounded like AirPod Studio was going to be the Apple Silicon but then now both Mark Gurman and John Prosser are saying that those have been delayed because of various sizing and customization options until a March event. And AirTags were just ready, but Apple was like, do we launch them in the middle of COVID where you're only going to lose your keys in your kitchen, or do we wait until people are back in the world? But if there's no other and available, and they want another and, because if you're not interested in the Mac, if you're an iPhone user, you could care less about the Mac. Who's going to they still want you to watch the event. I think it makes a lot of sense to do that sort of Apple Silicon Mac, but also, hey, there's a new iPhone doohickey that I want to watch as well.
As Karsten points out, he has apparently a very good memory. It was only 2 or 3 weeks ago that Prosser said the AirTags would be delayed until March.
Yeah, I know. That was such a confusing message. It was not that long ago that the original story was AirTags not until next year, and then just out of nowhere. Oh, by the way, I'm changing what I said. So how does that make you accurate if you're just constantly changing what you said?
It's I have a lot of sympathy for anybody who wants to be in that segment of the news business, because there is an audience for people who say, I know you'll never know for sure until Apple confirms something, but what do you have any information that suggests there is some sort of a timeline? Then they are delivering a sort of value, and they have to stick their necks way the hell out every time they make a guess. And the number of times I stopped doing any of that years ago, because the number of times where I had something that was just a deadlock or excuse me, at the time that I had the information, it was a deadlock, and then everything changed 2 days later, and I realized that if I had written that column, I would be looking very foolish right now, would I not? So it's to the degree that rumors are of any value whatsoever, I will not blame if someone is going to claim that this is their business, then that's a really, really, really tough market to be in.
They're ballsy.
They agree, though. So both Gurman and Prosser agree that the studios have been delayed, but Prosser thinks AirTags are going to take their place, and Mark doesn't think AirTags are a good fit for the Apple Silicon event. So that's where our rumor people diverge.
This isn't just leaks. This is also guesses. This is informed guesses. Yeah. Okay.
I think the Prosser's recent tweet that you're talking about, it has a little bit of credence to it, because it's less guesswork and more, I've got this insider information
about. It's very detailed. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that gives it more credence, and that's for me when I'm looking at different leakers who are providing all this kind of information. There's those little things that help you kind of decide, okay, I think this one has more credence because of the information involved in it. And I think Prosser's got that going with this particular tweet. So I am more like, if I was going to make a bet, I would bet on Prosser. I wouldn't bet a lot, because you never know, things change, especially during 2020.
Well, he's an 85.5% lock, so you could.
So is Gurman, though. He's 88. So it's hashtag Team Jern versus hashtag Team
I like
Gurm.
this. I like this product and theory. I think that's really interesting. that makes a lot of sense, and it has always borne out. They never just say one thing. Even on the iPhone announcement, they had the candle. So
the Yankee candle.
The Yankee candle. So
Gruber wrote something good about this too. I forget what he said, but it was sort of like programming episodic television.
Yeah.
Through 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, Apple probably can do that, right? They know what's ready. They know exactly what's going on.
They have the cards up on the board on the cork plot, and they're like, no, we're going to move this one to here, and then this one fits in. It's like using Scrivener. It's the way like Andy or I would use Scrivener. They're using it.
Very, very interesting.
I just wonder if there's a point in which they decide that this is all they're volunteering for a lot of stress that is not necessary. Just like at some point they realize that we are volunteering to give ourselves a hard deadline of January for the big Macworld keynote to make sure we have a major announcement ready or major product release, and that's totally artificial and totally unnecessary. And we could actually put a lot more effort into things that actually let us make more products if we simply let ourselves make our announcements on our own schedule. I wonder how long it's going to take before they put that kind of a thinking towards, look, we can AirTags, we can actually just make our own little video event. We have all the stuff, all the resources we need. We have such better access to the specific individuals we want to talk to right now, better than we've ever had before. Why are we knocking ourselves out to make sure that we release things in groups, that we ask ourselves what context is the best context under which to release AirTags? Because it seems as though the only limitation they're under right now is that it would be wonderful if they had a really cool Apple designed product that cost not a whole lot of money available in time for holiday buying. And if they miss that window, they can do it whenever they want.
So I guess the takeaways from this are you can't always be sure with any rumor because Apple can at any point change their mind or decide the time's not right. There is a likelihood that if they do something November 17th, it won't just be Apple Silicon. They want to do Apple Silicon, and I like that. And then finally, when you see a very detailed tip, it's more likely to be generated by a leak than when you see a more general tip, which is more likely just an educated guess. I have now encapsulated all the learnings from the three tip readers.
And it's always been this way. Like just now we have more access to information, but there has always been products that moved, that went from different times, that had features dropped, that the feature ended up in the second version of the product because they didn't finish it for the first.
Yeah.
It's just now we report on like Project Titan in a way we never reported on Project Purple.
Right.
So the whole world is.
Yeah.
Well, we're all looking at Apple through a glass darkly. We're kind of trying to figure out what's going on inside that box. And we get little bits of information and we try to assemble it into some sensible thing because we got nothing better to do, I guess. I don't know.
It's fun.
We have the jobs we have because of that. So
they're listening to us, Leo. Got to do some radio here.
Got to have something to say in between events.
A lot of us can pull things out of our butts. Very few of us can put it out of our butts and then monetize it. God bless America.
Monetizing things pulled out of my butts since 1998.
There's the name of the episode.
Yes, thank you very much. Apple has inexplicably removed Apple Card from payment options. Amazon has never taken Apple Pay, but the Apple Card is a MasterCard, so I guess you could put it. I don't use it for my Amazon, but there are people who are saying, "Oh, I was using it, and now it's disappeared from the payment list."
I think I can add a little bit more to this particular bit of information. Amazon did make a statement saying we've discovered this glitch and we're fixing it. So it's a bug.
It's a bug, not a feature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like Apple didn't remove it, Amazon didn't remove it. It was a bug that they, it was discovered and they were fixing it.
You can see how we would leap to conclusions that, oh my God, the Apple-Amazon rivalry is on again. And
exactly.
It's none of that.
Especially when the holiday spending is on the line, Leo.
Yeah.
People need their points. They need their cash back.
Well, so Prime Day's over. But we do have Black Friday coming in a couple of weeks.
Which is a good 2 weeks, or if not a month-long event now.
Yep.
Oh Lord.
Cyber Monday, remember, which is a real thing that was a real thing. When it was not a result of marketing people.
It's
Just
when you
like
remember
Mother's
when you have
Day.
a broadband connection, you can shop fast enough.
It's just like Mother's Day. All right, let's take a break, and we're going to come back. We have the Apple TV section. I was so angry last night. I'm watching Monday Night Football, and they played da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And I'm thinking, oh, it's that time of year. Can't wait to watch it. And exclusively Apple TV Plus. And even Lisa's sitting there going, that's a bad move, Apple. You just
in the football game, did someone pull the football out at the last minute? Just to try
really.
To fault
You just punked all these people who are looking forward to watching Charlie Brown, a holiday tradition every year. And no, you won't be. You're going to have to pay for Apple TV Plus to watch it. I think that might have been a bad move on Apple's part. She said there's got to be other content they could have bought.
Bad look.
It's a bad look. We talked about it last week, but I saw that ad yesterday.
It still stings, and as we speak, I got a notification saying that my Blu-ray copy of It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown is waiting for me in my mailbox. So I did get it in time. So it'll be ripped in my library, and I'll take a nice big picture.
Don't you stream it? Don't you stream it in October? We're coming for you.
Well, that's actually interesting. I'm seeing people say even if I bought something on iTunes, it streams it instead of. Like it's always playing it from the streaming service that it's on instead of which is I haven't seen that, but
it doesn't let you download it onto your Mac or your phone. It just prefers
like if it's available on Netflix as a stream and I bought it, it will play it on Netflix. That seems like a bug maybe in the Apple TV Plus app. I haven't noticed that. And by the way, anybody got Apple TV free because they bought something in the last year from Apple that qualified is going to get it through January. So you'll be able to see Charlie.
There's also it's also going to be free to watch for anybody and everybody through the TV app on like a couple of days before and a couple of days after. So I can't remember specifically.
Yes, I have the details. So this is Lisa said, if they were smart, they'd make it available for free, and then all these people would install the app and try it, and it would be, well, they are smart. It'll be free to watch October 30th, October 31st, and November 1st for non-subscribers. Day before Halloween, and the day after Halloween. See, that's good marketing.
Well, it's good. It's good. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's still, in my opinion, I'm trying to be cool about this, but not everybody has an Apple product. It's unfair to all those people who don't have an Apple product. That's the thing that gets me. And I know you can even use the Apple TV app on some smart devices and things like that. But come on, this is like
that's a good point.
Is for everyone, and you've just restricted it to people who have access to Apple things. Andy brought this up last week, and it's been weighing on me this whole time because I didn't hear that they took it exclusively for themselves until last week. And then I thought, even though they're making it free in the TV app, there's still people who are not going to be able to access this and watch it. It was just on television for the longest time, and I don't know. There's generations of kids who aren't going to get to experience that because mom and dad don't know how to or don't have a way to just turn it on. I don't know. It's sad.
Free is free, and any sort of a gatekeeper is not free. I was trying to figure out if you can stream it through tv.apple.com. But that's one way to do it. But I'm also couldn't figure out if you will be required to have an Apple ID in order to stream anything, even if it's free. So even that would be kind of piggish of them to say, well, we need to have your contact information so we know who's streaming this before we'll let you have it free. Again, let's not. It's nice of them to recognize that it would be a somewhat evil thing for them to deprive us not only of the Thanksgiving of the Halloween special, but the Thanksgiving special. And if you take away, I know Christmas is about Charlie Brown. Lights, please. Then suddenly I want to sell some of my Apple stuff. And so all three of those specials for, as Lori said, through like a 1 day window before and after, you'll be able to stream it. But it's what really sticks in my nose is that not only that, but now you can't even buy it on the iTunes store. You can't buy it on the Amazon Digital Store. You can't buy it on the Google Play Store. So even if you do have this stuff, the only solution is to buy the DVD, buy the Blu-ray, and it's just not a good look. That's
where it makes no sense to me. Like you'd think that if Apple wanted it, they would still have it on iTunes.
Right.
There must be some weird arcane licensing nonsense going on here, which never benefits anybody. Except
very
so
true.
I just went to the Peanuts Holiday Anniversary Collection Blu-ray, and it says it's not currently unavailable.
Did Andy buy the last copy?
It might just be out of stock. People buy them. I went to buy mine like 10 days ago, and I found lots of copies available from lots of different outlets and sellers, lots of different editions. So I don't think if they pulled it out of print, then I suddenly am like, guess what? I'm switching to Linux for my desktop.
It is kind of outrageously. The DVD. This is Amazon pricing. $200 is outrageous. That's not.
Oh well, that's a collectible. That's some automated pricing computer wants to jack it up. I bought mine for $8.99, and that's only because I didn't want to wait for it to go on sale.
So
Leo, if you're looking to buy that collection, any version that has the holiday specials in it, I recommend the 1960s Peanuts holiday collection. It has those plus a couple others in it. I really, I have all three of them, and I like that one the best.
Yes, that's the one that's $200.
Yeah, that's okay. Yep, that's
so
the one.
somebody's making some money on that one.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should try.
There's no
selling
point in getting a Blu-ray, right? Because it's not a high def.
No. They remastered it.
No, they did.
I was about to say it is incredible on in HD because you can actually see the shadows from like the cell layers. So it's not just like a crisp line work and everything is perfect. It's like you actually see, because these are cells being stacked on a background then photographed from above. You can actually see the shadows, like a shadow line on the sides of these things, and it's just so good. It's almost I almost wish there were a bonus content which for anybody over the age of say 38, we will give you this crummy thing with like herringbone interference, and you can't really make things out because you don't get channel 7 very well on your home set. It was quite a flashback.
Well, the Peanuts 4K Ultra HD Holiday Collection is currently out of stock, but here's the good news. Skinny Dipped Peanuts Variety Pack and Milk Chocolate Covered is available.
Well,
so
there's no difference. Really.
I can drown my sorrows in milk chocolate covered or peanut butter and jelly covered.
They
peanuts.
Still got to try to sell you something. You got to give them credit.
Well, at least I get Apple
it's
TV
a great
Plus.
Peanut, Charlie Brown.
I can watch it. Sigh. Our show today brought to you by, this is happier news, Cachefly. I mean, literally, quite literally, if you download our show from anywhere, from a podcast application, from Apple, from Google, from anywhere you get it, you're actually getting it through our content delivery network, our CDN, and that has been Cachefly for the last 10 years. Actually, Cachefly's been innovating content delivery since 1999. We love Cachefly because it gets our content to you fast. No buffering, no waiting. You may not notice it, but it really does make a big difference. And we never have to worry about our servers going down because Cachefly has a 100% SLA uptime guarantee. It is the best you can get anywhere with servers near you. Now, one of the things we've been doing from day one, I didn't realize we were getting some special treatment. We were using Cachefly's storage optimization system. Now that's available to everybody. You know, to understand why this is a great thing, you have to understand how a CDN works. Your content, when we put it up, is automatically downloaded from our storage to the various Cachefly servers whenever anybody requests it, and it stays on the Cachefly servers all over the world for a period of time. If there isn't the data on there, that's called a cache miss, and it has to go to the origin and download it. Now, because our origin is on Cachefly, that's never a problem. But for most people, you know, you put your content on Amazon or Google or Azure or somewhere, right? And then Cachefly has to get it. That's going to slow things down. It's going to cost you as much as thousands of dollars a month because your origin, you know, is charging you for that delivery over to Cachefly. That's where Cachefly's SOS, their storage optimization system, really is great. You will save by shielding your origin. No cache misses. That means your download speeds will be dramatically improved. And of course, you won't have any data transfer out fees. With Cachefly SOS, you get a 100% cache hit ratio. You just, once you're a Cachefly customer, just decide how much storage you need. They'll take care of the rest. We've been using this forever, and it works wonderfully. Incidentally, Cachefly is rapidly expanding their points of presence all over the world. They just added 6 new POPs in South America. They are serving 10 times the amount of traffic in Latin America over the last year. And that's great news. If you have content that's delivered all over the world as we do, you're going to really love Cachefly. They not only maintain but drastically improved performance in Latin America while taking on a much higher traffic load. Whether your end users are in North America, Latin America, the Caribbean, Europe, the Middle East, Asia Pacific, their goal is to deliver your content quickly and reliably. No matter where in the world your customers are, you can expect consistency and performance everywhere. Reliable throughput, scalability, 5 times faster than other CDNs. And with Cachefly's SOS, you get that 100% uptime SLA guarantee and industry-leading global performance. So whether you're a podcast, a gaming platform, you've got apps or digital downloads of any kind, you want Cachefly. By the way, great people, too. We love Matt Levine and the crew over there. They've just donated over $50,000 to World Central Kitchen. They're going to serve 300,000 warm meals to people who are struggling in these tough times. So, in summary, standard, powerful throughput, low latency, high cache hit ratio, and 100% uptime SLA, Cachefly is your go-to for CDN. And don't forget Cachefly's SOS, which can save your ship. Just for Twit listeners, Cachefly is giving away a complimentary detailed analysis of your current CDN bill and usage trends. See if you're paying more than you should, as much as 20% more for your content delivery network. Learn more at twit.cachefly.com. See how much Cachefly can save you and how much it can improve your customer's experience. twit.cachefly.com. Thank you, Cachefly. Let's see, what else? I watched On the Rocks, the Bill Murray, Sofia Coppola movie. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that. It's nice to see Bill Murray on the screen again. That's an AppleTV Plus.
Holding off on seeing that. I'm glad to hear that it got a good review. I'm waiting for the weekend to watch that one. So,
Lisa and I both said it's not a great movie, but Bill Murray is so good, it doesn't matter.
It's so true.
It lags a little bit until he shows up, and then woo! Bill's in town. It's a great Bill Murray movie. Sofia Coppola obviously has a great relationship with Bill Murray. I feel like it may be a little bit about her relationship with her father, Francis Ford Coppola, because it's really about a young woman's relationship with her dad, and he was kind of a scallywag, and it's good. I think you're going to. There's some good moments, some funny moments. They just landed a documentary about one of my favorite bands, and I'm guessing yours too, Lori, given a sick burn. You probably love the Velvet Underground, right? Lou Reed's original band.
Absolutely.
They're gonna do a Todd Haynes, who does great movies, is doing a documentary on the Velvet Underground. Lou Reed, John Cale. It was an amazing band. So that will be fun, and that really was quite a time, and I think that it's more than just that band. It was really the period with Andy Warhol in New York City and all that. Should be very interesting. Scarlett Johansson, this is becoming the Apple TV segment. But they need it, right? Because if they're going to keep people subscribing after it runs out at the end of January, they better have something for us to watch. Scarlett Johansson will produce and star in a movie for Apple. This is not one they're buying, as they did with Greyhound after its production, called Bride. Oh, it's a Marvel. Is it a Marvel?
No, it's just another Marvel cast member showing up.
Oh.
They seem to be doing a lot of movies with people who were in Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
A24 is a great film production company. They've put out a bunch of my favorite horror films, so I love to see their name attached to it. So it's a good production company.
The plot follows a woman created to be an ideal wife. The singular obsession of a brilliant entrepreneur of course, it's got to be Scarlett Johansson, right? When she rejects her creator, she's forced to flee her confined existence, confronting a world that sees her as a monster. It is on the run she finds her true identity, her surprising power, and the strength to remake herself as her own creation. Sounds like an updated Bride of Frankenstein.
Maybe she's
It
the
actually
entrepreneur.
kind of sounds, well, yeah, it does sound like Bride of Frankenstein, but it also kind of reminds me of, is it Ex Machina, which she was also in, which is about
I loved
a
Ex
created
Machina.
android that has to escape from her.
She's not an Ex
captors.
Machina.
Was that not her?
Ghost in the Machine.
No, I guess you're right. It's not her. You're
No,
right.
yeah, but
Ghost in the Machine.
I recently bought
Yeah.
I'd watched Ex Machina. It's Alex Garland, who I think is a very
That's
interesting
right.
director, and I recently bought it on 4K because I wanted to watch it again, and it really looks good. Yeah, that's a very interesting movie.
Yeah.
It does sound
They
like
didn't
that.
get Bond, which is sad. I would have loved to have seen Bond on.
So the Bond movie, No Time to Kill, which was supposed to be out in theaters round about now. In fact, it was going to be the tentpole release that was going to save movie theaters in America. They have abandoned movie theaters. They're all going out of business now, thanks to James Bond. They said we're going to come out next year at this time. Now they're shopping it around. Get ready.
Or aren't they? Because apparently they did. Like they said they're not going to shop it. Like I don't understand, because it was all like, oh, Mr. Bond, we expect you to die.
Yeah.
And then there was competing bids, and then they said, oh, it's not for sale.
$600 million was the rumored price tag.
Yeah.
Even Apple, with their deep pockets, for one movie, they're not going to get that kind of subscription.
And they had Cayenne with the music, so you're kind of wondering, oh, is the music part of the negotiation? Like, what's happening here? Is that a tease? I don't know.
So
It's very
blame
suspicious to me.
MGM, the producers of this, of course. And according to Mark Gurman, again, in Bloomberg, Apple and Netflix discussed acquiring the Bond movie for streaming with MGM. The film, MGM said, has been postponed till April 2021 in order to preserve the theatrical experience. But they did say it's not for sale. However, that may be because they couldn't get their price, right?
Yeah, probably.
That's a lot of money. What that would do is effectively guarantee them, a successful box office. The movie cost it's estimated $250 million to produce.
Yeah, but to give you some comparison, I just happened to see some box office figures just the other day. So the number one movie on 2,000 screens earned something like is on track to earn $40 million domestically total. So that used to be
now in the COVID era.
Yeah. Meaning worldwide, what used to be considered a very good opening weekend is now I think they're making something again 2,000. I don't know where they found 2,000 screens in the United States that are open, but they're making something like 1.5 million, 2 million, 3 million on an opening week, and that's just. That's like Godfather Part 2 numbers, like 1970, not like 1972 box office numbers.
Deadline says, and Deadline's usually pretty good on this stuff, that neither Apple, Netflix, or Amazon would even offer half the $600 million one-year license fee. So producer Barbara Broccoli flatly nixed the deal because in a healthy theater market, they'd be expected to get $1 billion. And so it would be quite a big markdown for them.
Think about how much firepower you'd be giving up if you invested $600 million in one movie, as opposed to all the other movies and series you could buy with that kind of money.
No, it's just not worth
obvious.
it. And it's a big gamble, and it's just not worth it. But it's also a gamble for MGM. Let's not forget, because will there be a healthy movie market anytime soon? Will it?
Marvel's got they've stacked up movies now, right? Like they've got The Eternals and Black Widow and Shang-Chi just wrapped production, and all of these franchises have these movies that were completed or are about to be completed. Thor is filming. There's just where are they all going to go?
Yeah.
I almost think Disney is in a good position to make some good profits off of that sort of thing, kind of like the way they did with Mulan, is by just making it a premium movie that you can stream through Disney+.
Do we know how much they made, though? They charged $30 for Mulan. Was it successful?
I don't know.
There's a lot of controversy.
I don't know what the numbers came to.
Into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's part of it is that they have a schedule that if Pixar doesn't release Soul this year, they have a release schedule for 2021. What do they do with the 2020 release? Do they bump that until next year or the end of the season? So I have no idea what kind of dynamics the people are trying to solve here. But as you say, another one of these variables in the equation is what is going. Even when there are enough people vaccinated that people are going to feel very, very comfortable going back into movie theaters, even when you can schedule something, knowing that the trend is so going down consistently that you know that there's not going to be another bump up that makes state governors say, okay, guess what, we're closing down movie theaters again. How do you make those kind of predictions? And you've got these properties that are costing you hundreds of millions of dollars that are just, they're just fermenting in your warehouse.
So Mulan,
and unlike Pixar, the other ones get older. The actors are getting older, and if they're on 3 picture deals, like every year you postpone, that's an older. Oh, Thor is 97 years old now. What are we going to do?
Disney did reveal that Mulan in its opening weekend on Disney Plus made $35.5 million. So far, they say box office is $66.8 million. Globally. Disney Plus did gain 68% in subscribers that weekend, so there may be additional ways to make money. And remember, there's no distribution fees because Disney owns Disney Plus, so that's pure profit. But still, it's hard to say, it needs to make more than $90 million to cover its budget, so it's hard to say that's a success.
Well... when the power goes out at your ice cream parlor, you just got to sell the ice cream. If you wait for
do you though? Can't you keep that? I mean, wouldn't Mulan do, or any movie do just as well in 2023?
It depends. Do you want your movie to compete with another movie that you spent twice as much money on? And where do you release it? I'm not pretending that I know what the answers are, but it's just such a very complicated calculus that.
And what do you do? What do you do in the meantime? So, I hear what you're saying, like put the ice cream in a different freezer and wait till 2023, but then you're not doing anything at all between now and 2023.
Well, you're not making movies either, right? So you're not, it's not like there's a bunch of
They are
backlog.
doing TV shows, though. Like they had like Disney's doing Marvel TV shows. They have WandaVision. They just announced Oscar Isaac for Moon Knight. And that could be at least a way for some companies. Like maybe they have to investigate Bond, the TV show that's going to be on Netflix at this point, just to keep their production companies going until the movies are back.
I really wonder if even after we conquer somehow some magical way, because it's not clear how that's going to happen, COVID, if people will go back.
New Zealand says hi, Leo.
Yeah, New Zealand's figured it out. But they're a tiny little island nation. I mean, come on.
South Korea. I mean,
China places that have solved it. Admittedly,
they got hobbits and orcs. They don't mess around with New Zealand.
Oh, breaking news, Leo! Breaking news. Jon Stewart is coming back to TV with Apple.
Oh, see, that's a big acquisition. But I bet you it's not a daily show. I bet you, because he's lately been doing movies with medium success. A
new current affairs series for Apple, according to the Hollywood Reporter.
Oh, that's smart. They must have offered him a lot of money because I think he was happily retired.
I miss him so much.
I do too. That's a smart move from Apple's point of view. That's what Apple should be doing, not taking Charlie Brown off the broadcast.
but giving, right? Not taking, but giving.
Give, don't take. I just feel like people are going to gear up. They're going to get better TVs, better sound systems, and they're going to discover the pleasures of watching at home to such a degree that I think it may not be this. And in meantime, theaters are going belly up.
Yeah.
There may not be a robust theater economy when we vanquish COVID.
At home, it's only Lori kicking the back of your chair and throwing popcorn at you. It's not a dozen people.
Yeah.
Lori can kick the back of my chair anytime.
I have 2 words for you. Drive-ins.
Yeah.
No one wants to go to a drive-in.
Oh, I just went to the drive-in last week.
Yeah, but
it was wonderful.
Really? Was it wonderful? Sitting in your car? Okay.
Well, we actually got out. We brought some camping chairs and we got out and sat right in front of the car and just like turned up the stereo. And it was actually really pleasant to just be
anywhere,
just out in the open air and watching a movie.
Yeah.
So but unfortunately, drive-ins went the way of the dinosaur, and there are very, very few of them in the United States. So that's also the problem with that.
Right. Yeah. Jon Stewart, here we go from the chat room. Scooter X found the story, the still untitled show, which will feature hour-long single-subject episodes. There you go. That's it. He's more interested in documentaries. Will be executive produced by Stewart through his company Busboy Productions. In his role as EP, he'll be joined by his longtime manager James Dixon and former HBO chief Richard Pepler. A showrunner for the forthcoming series, for which Apple is expected to offer a companion podcast, has yet to be named. Will Stewart be hosting? It doesn't even say hosting. He might just be producing. And isn't it interesting? A companion podcast. That's going to be the phrase you're going to hear over and over again. God dang it.
That's kind of the thing people do now.
I'm so sick of that. Get out of
movies,
Get
TV
off of
show,
my lawn.
Conan O'Brien now has 3 podcasts, I think.
Oh, Lord. I can't compete. How can you compete with Conan? You can't. As a part of the expansive multi-year deal with Apple, the Emmy Drenched... Where'd you get this,
That's
Scooter X? The Emmy-drenched former writer, producer, and host of The Daily Show is set to front an all-new current affairs series for the streaming service. The show, which will run for multiple seasons, puts Stewart back in the anchor's chair as he explores a host of topics at the centers of both the national conversation and his own advocacy work. Okay. You can see how they got Johnny to do that. Yeah. Lacey Rose, Hollywood Reporter. Thank you. Emmy Drenched.
Emmy Drenched.
Can you be Emmy Drenched if you have one Emmy?
But is he Emmy quenched now that he's been drenched?
I am Emmy dinged.
Emmy smashed.
Facebook has launched its cloud games on desktop and Android, but guess where you can't play Facebook games? iOS. Facebook says it's due to Apple's arbitrary policies.
Oh, like their new Oculus Facebook logins where you can't have 2 people using a device at the same time. You have to have a Facebook account. And if you don't also post to Facebook, they'll say your account is fake and delete it and all your purchases.
That's so annoying.
That's sort of that.
I hate you, Mark Zuckerberg. I just hate you. Microsoft's going to do the same thing. Did you see this with Minecraft? You're going to have a Microsoft account to log into Minecraft.
I don't. So like you have to have a Google account to use and an iCloud account, but none of them feel as manipulative as having a Facebook account. Especially like if I don't use my Google account for anything, it doesn't stop me using Android. If I never use my iCloud account for anything, it doesn't stop me using iOS. But they're canceling people left and right who've paid money for games and things on their platform, and it's just like they're so. I'm not even going to get into how they're handling their news feed because today it's another toxic waste dump of bad reports on how they're behaving. But just how they run Oculus means that they should shut up and not say a word about any other platform until they fix their own house. I'm super angry about this because I have it on. I love it. I can't use it.
I'm Emmy dipped.
Emmy ripped.
Emmy surrounded is probably the closest.
I'm not Emmy surrounded. There's only one.
It's about Oculus, so I joined him.
So Paul Kafasis is the guy at Rogue Amoeba, but he apparently is quite a fitness fanatic. He is P-Bones on Instagram, and apparently he has hit his move goal in his Apple Watch 2,000 times. And wow, I wouldn't expect this from Apple since Siri won't ever say any bad words. But I got to trust Paul. He says when he hit his 2,000th daily move goal, how many years is 2,000? That's like
5.5 years. So almost. Yeah. What makes this doubly impressive is that it means that even during the first year of the Apple Watch, when it was kind of crap, he still put it on every single day. That is dedication, sir.
And apparently,
there were no bugs.
The watch swears. The watch is so surprised. Paul says, I'm not sure the Apple Watch was prepared for anyone to do this. It says, I can't say it on the show, holy S word, you've reached your daily move goal for the 2,000th time.
It's holy shirt in the good place.
Holy shirt. I can't believe Apple probably really seriously, nobody even looked to see what the coder put in there.
It's so beautiful because you imagine that like whoever's job it is to like proofread all this stuff. They went all the way up to like 500, maybe 1,000, and then they never even considered like when they got of course 2,000, 3,000, whatever, and they're free to do whatever they want. And they said no one will ever see this. No one, by the time, I think more practically, by the time anybody does this, we will have put out a patch. Like it'll be like 5 years later, we'll do a new version of the OS and we'll change this.
Or I'll have cashed out my stocks and be long gone, suckers.
Yeah, I thought I asked. I know Paul, so I joked with him that, hey, good job hacking the binary so that every day counts for 30 days. And as long as you're hacking it that way, may as well hack the dialog box. But no, he said no, absolutely correct. This is absolutely what happened.
Wow.
And I was
Kevin
like,
Lynch got a phone call, didn't he? As soon as this went up, Kevin Lynch got a phone call.
Wow. I'm still more impressed that Paul has
I know that's incredible.
worked out.
I'm surprised it wasn't a bug. Like I would have thought that at some point WatchOS would have screwed him out of a decade.
Yeah,
exactly,
because it's not charged, right?
Yeah, and there's always been these little problems where switching from one watch to another, or saving your data as a backup. There was all these problems early on where your health data or your step data or your activity data would just get deleted and erased. He managed to preserve every single day's worth of.
Like we're going to make sure no one ever reaches this.
John says it's because he's moonlighting as a mailman. That would do it. I bet mailmen and mail women and mail carriers get their move goals every single day. Yeah. You can also set your move goal to be 10 steps, right? Right?
Yeah,
it's not as impressive that he met his move goal as it is that he managed to preserve the daily move goal. That's the thing that's impressive.
I didn't even think about that, but for me, it's impressive that every single day he put that watch on. I don't know anybody who. I'm not talking about the lack of dedication. I'm saying that you still would have met your move goal, but you have a dress watch that you wear at family weddings, or you forgot to plug it in and charge it one day, so you left the house without it one morning. That's incredible, and for all the it's unexpected to see Holy Spit as the activity reaction. They still produced a very, very professional looking 2000 badge that looks like something from the Art Nouveau age. So they still commissioned somebody to produce this beautiful badge. I guess they just didn't check anybody's ASCII strings.
What I'm wondering though is where's the 2000 stand and the 2000 workout badge, Paul? Where's those other three rings?
And what do those say?
Wouldn't it be so sad if you just forgot to wear your watch one day in the 2000?
One great day you were at the beach, you were having fun.
I have talked to people who have had similar experiences where they were years into their activity rings and somehow just forgot to put their watch on, or some small thing like that. One of my coworkers, she exercises every day and she meets all three of her rings. And there was one night where it was a little bit later in the evening and she didn't notice that she didn't meet her step goal. And it was years of meeting her goals. And then just one night she just forgot to do those, walk around the block or whatever. And she lost that one ring. And people are so dedicated to those rings. It's amazing.
And Andy, you'll certify that there's no way Paul photoshopped this or faked this. This is the real deal.
I did question him about it. He says this is the real deal, and Paul is the person who he's the head of Rogue Amoeba, producer of some of the most wonderful apps that have ever been made for the Mac and for the watch and for all these other platforms. So I'm willing to stick my neck out and believe that he is absolutely telling the truth and take the risk that he's also. There'd
be no point in doing this and faking it. Then it's no big deal. Yeah. It's much.
Also, he's also he's also in a race with Adam Engst to be the most improbably and offensively fit Mac geek, Apple geek in the business. So
is he really swole? I mean, he's like.
No. Even worse. He's got that wiry sort of bike. I could run 50. I could run 50 miles every single day, and a marathon would be my skip day.
I could eat 50 Krispy Kremes every single day.
Yeah.
And have. Wasn't even a contest or anything. I just had a lot of extra money and.
My wife buys a giant buckets of donut holes at Safeway. There must be 50 donut holes in there, but there are no calories because it's just the hole, so it's okay.
Exactly.
Right? I like that argument.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sphere, one of nature's most perfect shapes. It's got to be good for you.
Yeah. All right, let's. It's time for our picks of the week. We're going to get to those in just a second. Let's start our picks. Oh, yeah, I have to always think about who I want to spend. I have a limited supply of funds to dedicate to any individual picks. Let me start with Renee Ritchie this time. Renee?
All right, so mine is not going to cost you the price of a Lori Gilbert.
Oh, I already bought what you're. I already did it.
Yeah, so I'm talking about Halide. I never know how to pronounce it.
I say Halide. I don't know Halide.
Halide. Yeah. You say Halide, I say Halide, and I'll get to potatoes before all of you. But This is Mark II, and I love that they're using the Iron Man armor sequence for these names. And it's made, the same team, Sebastian and Ben and Rebecca, who've been making Halide for a while now. And it's a photographer's app, not just a photo app, but a photographer's app for the iPhone. And they introduced it now with the iPhone 12s, especially in mind because of all the new things that you can do, just the 10-bit that you're ingesting there. But it gives you full manual control. It lets you shoot Apple's version of the photo, their version of the photo, sort of a hybrid version of the photo, just a raw photo that you can do anything you want with. And it's impeccably designed. Sebastian was a former Apple designer, and you can blame him for stitched leather as much as you absolutely want to, but he has far more than redeemed himself with Halide over the last few years. So if you're looking for something, I love the fact that the Apple camera app just lets you take the phone out, put it where you want it, press a button, and you get a good photo, maybe even a great photo almost every time. But if you are itching for sort of really crunchy controls and all the sort of capabilities from controlling the depth effect, the depthy API, to the histograms, all those little things, all the tools that a photographer wants. It's just, I cannot say how delightful it is. Like, it's got a grid on it, and when you've got the grid centered, you get a little taptic feedback that it's locked onto something, and it's crunchy in all the best senses of the word. And because the iPhone 12 specifically it harkens back to that Leica and Braun design era of Apple. And Sebastian is a huge Leica, I can't pronounce anything today, aficionado. It just feels like the pixels are such a good fit for the atoms. So if you adore photography at all, I cannot recommend it enough.
It's a free upgrade if you bought Halide 1. But I decided they have a subscription model now that's not required, but it's available $1 a month, which seems very fair. I want to keep them doing the development. And if you're an existing customer, it's $10 a year. I immediately signed up for that because I want to keep Sebastian and company producing this stuff. It's just so good. There's an Apple Watch app. It supports Siri shortcuts. Because Apple's Pro Raw isn't out yet, you'll be able to take advantage of features like that now. And then when Apple Pro Raw comes out, you'll be able to do that too. I just think I agree with you. It's now front and center on the front of my iPhone. Yeah. And I can't wait to try it with the 12 Pro Max. I'm very excited.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Andy Anatko, pick of the week.
Actually, also a classic app, for at least for me, has a major update. Reader is now, REEDER, is now on version 5. This is a news reader for the Mac and for iOS. The Mac version is $10. The iOS version is $5. And I know that news readers and RSS readers used to be a much bigger thing like 10 years ago, and now you almost never hear of RSS and news feeds. But they're still very much a thing because they're baked into the systems of WordPress and most other websites and web apps. And if you are in a business like I am, where you have to maintain awareness on lots of different topics, on lots of different news sources, it really is the only efficient way to start your day and having a really good overview of everything that you're trying to keep tabs on. There are web-based news readers. I don't think they're nearly as efficient. They're not as nearly as nice to use as a very, very nicely tuned Mac OS interface app like this is. They've added a couple of simple features. They've added widgets for the iPhone, so now you can have news items on your home screen. But they've also now added iCloud syncing between devices, so you can start off by dragging your MacBook into bed with you, making sure that the world hasn't ended, showering, shaving, going out, getting on the train, then using your iPad or your iPhone to continue where you left off, and then continue when you get to the office on your regular Mac. It's just, like I said, it's a very, very difficult problem to solve, but a very, very easy thing to keep on top of if you have an app like Reader.
It's kind of interesting because RSS died a while ago. But RSS readers, especially in the Mac world, NetNewsWire is back. Reader's still around. I use InnoReader. There's a bunch of really good RSS readers. I'm gonna have to try Reader because it does look like it's pretty sweet. And I do, like you, Andy. I have kind of beat checks I have to make. So $5 for Reader on the iPhone. How much is it
iPhone
on the
and
Mac?
iPad? $10, and they're both available through the app stores.
Okay, sounds like it'd be well.
And they sync now, so that makes it worth it to get both of them for sure.
Yeah, because I don't want to have to keep exporting OPML and importing it and all that stuff. It's funny how after Google killed Google Reader, it didn't kill RSS quite, did it?
But still, that's got to be one of the saddest headstones in the entire Google graveyard.
Yeah. And there are a lot of them. All right. Well, Andy got me $5 down the tubes. What do you got, Lori? What can I buy from you?
So I just watched this the other night and just found it to be joyous. It's a new version of Roald Dahl's The Witches.
See, I love this book.
I grew up watching this movie.
And there was an old movie.
I didn't read the book yet.
Yeah.
But I watched the movie in the 90s and just loved it.
I love the cast of this new one.
It's so good. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis. It's got Anne Hathaway in it and Octavia Spencer, Stanley Tucci.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so much fun. It's actually even at parts almost a little too scary for kids. Like they've managed to really bring out the scariness of these witches in this one. So it really is good. It's a great, great, great movie for Halloween. If you have kids, absolutely, it's a great movie. But frankly, if you were a kid or a teenager in the 90s, you're going to like that too, just because it's going to remind you of that. If you read that book as a kid, it's really well done. It's a wonderful movie. So, and it's on HBO Max exclusively. So if you don't have HBO Max, maybe go ahead and sign up for that free trial right now and watch it for Halloween.
I do, and I've been trying to decide because I love the original so much, and I love the book so much, and I couldn't tell if this was going to be good or not. I'm so glad you like it.
Yeah, I was worried too. You know, I've got my place in my heart for the earlier one, and so I was a little like, this one's not going to be any good. But turns out it's well done. Absolutely.
We also have filters for Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat to spot a witch. So that looks like a lot of fun too. Oh, good. I'm gonna watch this tonight. Good. I was wondering. I couldn't decide. I looked at it. I love Anne Hathaway. I love Stanley Tucci. I mean, and Octavia Spencer's awesome. It really.
She just steals the show.
Yeah, she looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'll watch it. The Witches. Folks, that's the end of this program. I thank you so much for joining us for MacBreak Weekly. Lori Gill is managing editor at imore.com. I tried to promote her, but no, it didn't take. Sorry, Lori. I apologize.
Not yet. Keep trying, though. Someone's going to hear you someday.
Anything you want to plug?
Just happy Halloween, everyone, this Saturday. Stay safe and have a lot of fun with your friends and family.
That's right. You can't go trick-or-treating. What are you going to do for Halloween?
We're going to watch a movie in the backyard. We have a projector that we set up. So we're going to get out the popcorn and carve some pumpkins and watch a scary movie in the backyard. Just the two of you, or will you allow others to join you? Just our next door neighborhood. We're all quarantining together.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
The three of us share a backyard.
It's good to have a pod. You need everyone should have a pod.
Yeah.
Andy and Akko, when are you going to be on GBH next?
Friday at 1 p.m. However, I'm very much prepared to be bumped because it's the last Friday before Election Day. And there's probably going to be some local politician who's going to say, can I please have an hour to talk about how great I am? Yeah. So, but if just in case, to be gbhnews.org, you can watch it, listen to it live or later, or listen to any of my previous weekly appearances.
And if you're in any small seaside New England town, you might want to look for the Post-it note pumpkin in the window.
Yes, I have been getting compliments. I've got 4 of them up right now. I'm trying to get more windows, but yes.
Are you doing anything for Halloween?
I'm not doing anything special. There's what I am planning on. I do have my triple feature all set up in Plex. The first Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, Charlie Brown Halloween. I am going to be buying a Dolly Madison Zingers.
Oh, good. That was the
sponsor,
longtime sponsor.
That was the sponsor.
Now I wonder if Apple TV will just stick those Dolly Madison ads in anyway. They should,
or they'll make it exclusive to the Apple Store. You have to have an Apple Watch to buy them. Then I'm gonna watch the Creepy Terror, that episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and to wrap it up, the the most scary, wonderful Gothic horror opera ever written, Lucia de Lammermoor, which is, I mean, it's got ghosts, it's got murders, it's got the highlight is the murder of the title character murders her husband on her wedding bed 90 minutes after being married, comes down into the wedding reception holding a bloody knife, her wedding gown covered in gore.
I've seen that.
And sings for 15 minutes about So it is. I'm timing that for that to be the midnight the midnight showing.
Well, throw a 7-Eleven burrito in the sous vide and enjoy your Halloween. I think it sounds wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Renee Ritchie, do they celebrate Halloween in Canada?
They do, but we tried to cancel Thanksgiving because of COVID, and people did it anyway, and we had another outbreak. So now they're not sure what they're going to do about Halloween. But we seem to be failing this universal IQ test real hard.
Well, you're not alone. So you're not alone. Here in the United States, it's the worst it's ever been. It's just it's so depressing. It's so sad.
Our gymnasiums and martial arts and health studios have said they're going to open up despite the law saying they can't, just because they're tired of being closed. I'm like, and then the other people are like, we deserve a break from COVID. We deserve one weekend where we don't have to worry about it. It doesn't work that way.
COVID doesn't take a vacation, kids.
No.
It does not.
They're like during World Wars, they take a pause and everyone celebrates for a day. Right. We can do that. No, it doesn't. Oh,
but I understand. I'm completely sympathetic. I think everybody around the world has gotten to the point like we're up to here with the quarantining. Yeah. I don't care. We're going out.
Except in the places that did it responsibly to begin with and have now gone back to a normal way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you have it.
I'm not angry.
I thought you guys did it right.
No, not Quebec. Quebec, we have a populist nationalist government that wants to appease their base.
Did the rest of Canada do okay? I heard it was up.
The Maritimes are great. The Maritimes are fantastic. Toronto's been up and down. Toronto had a populist leader, but he was so scared by coronavirus. He got scared science, which is just a remarkable, miraculous thing. And BC's had their ups and downs.
It's a miracle.
But the Maritimes have done great.
Yeah. Sorry, Andy. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I wish that I want to hang a big sign outside my window that says, "Being sick and tired of all these COVID preparations does not produce antibodies to COVID."
Yeah,
it is not enough that you're bored. It's not enough that you're sick and tired. Not enough that you want to get your hair done by a professional. We're stuck with this for a while.
I'm sympathetic, but I'm also old and fat, so I don't get to participate in any of these. I don't know what we're going to do for Thanksgiving. Lisa wants to invite her parents and her sister over and their families, and I think
don't risk it.
Well, we're not doing it inside. We're going to. I think we're going to buy some tables and do it pilgrim style. I don't know. I might. Just sit and watch with my mask.
We did it over Zoom. We did a Zoom Thanksgiving where my sister in Ottawa, my mom, who's across town, and me, we just hooked up. FaceTime.
I can't face another Zoom call, which is funny because that's all I do in my job all day long.
I said, "Pass the salt," and they're like, "I'm in Rhode Island."
Thank you, Renee. You'll find his work at youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. He, of course, freelances for iMore and many other places, but it's all there, and the Twitter is at Renee Ritchie. Renee Ritchie, Andy Anako, Lori Gill, have a great Halloween. I will see you next on U.S. Election Day. And Andy and Lori.
I might be crying in my soup that day.
No, we won't know anything yet, but I do. If you want to take the day off and vote, please be my guest. I already voted.
I'm doing early voting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
we're all.
You don't have an
election. I'll be here. I might start drinking at 1 p.m. though.
Renee, can I send you another ballot and you can vote up there? I think you'd probably like to. Wouldn't you?
I can, but we can't even elect our own prime minister. So I'd just be voting for my local riding.
That's right. You don't vote for prime minister. You vote for his party.
Yep, and then whoever is head of the party. Yeah.
As bad as our system is, that sounds worse.
No, but the best thing about it is that we have a vote of no confidence. So anytime a major piece of legislation doesn't pass, it can force an election. So it makes sure everybody at least passes things.
Yeah. And then there's that proroguing thing, which I'll never understand.
Oh, but you have Philip. I mean, Leo, we could go back and forth all day about the charming eccentricities of former American colonial government.
Let's just, Can we start over? Have a modern system. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. Now, I have to tell you, we are going to, the rest of the world, I think, has gone off summertime. Are you still on summertime, Renee, or no?
No, I think we go off this weekend. I think
so do we. You must have followed our lead. Because
we have an agreement. Montreal and Toronto said if New York stops doing it, we'll stop doing it too, but nobody's moved yet.
Please, let's stop the insanity. So it turns out in the Bush era, in the I think 2004, 2005, we moved the date even later in the year, but it has nothing to do with farmers or saving energy. It was the candy lobby who said, "Could you please end daylight saving time after Halloween so we get 1 extra hour to enjoy the treats." I don't even understand how that works, but the candy lobby apparently weighs heavy on the halls of Congress, and they're drenched. They're drenched in Snickers bars, I guess. But we now do it on November 1st. So we will. The reason I bring this up is, if you're in the States or you're anywhere where you're changing the time zone this weekend, then that's not going to affect you. But if you've already changed times, you probably noticed we didn't. Now we will. That's why UTC, which never moves, is actually moving. So we're 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time. And it's now 1700 UTC. Okay, so you can do the calculations because I can't. It hurts my brain. If you want to watch us do it live, that's what you need. And then you can do that by going to the feeds. There's audio and video at twit.tv/live, or you go to irc.twit.tv, chat along with the other people watching live. On-demand versions of the show available at the website, twit.tv/mbw. There it is. And there's a big subscribe button there. You subscribe to audio or video in your favorite podcast application that way, or YouTube for that matter, and that way you'll get it the minute it's available. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We will see you next time. Get back to work, though, because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Want more Twit? Well, check out Smart Tech Today. It's at twit.tv/STT. It's the show where Matthew Casanelli and I cover everything there is to know about smart tech. It's automation, it's connected devices, it's smart home, it's all those goodies and so much more. We get the news, we get the latest devices, we do reviews, everything. You gotta check it out, twit.tv/STT for Smart Tech Today.